All right, guys. Hey, welcome to this week's Property Management Mastermind. And the key, obviously, is with the network is to help bring you great strategies from outside the network and within the network to help you advance your results. A couple of little points up front is one of the things with these sessions is I'm not looking at these on a weekly basis to revolutionize the way you do business. What I'd love it to be, though, is to either validate the strategy you're utilizing, and maybe is there a tweak, is there a 5% upgrade or a tweak in that particular area? Second point is there something that you've heard that one of our other members or someone else is doing that you go like, yeah, I've known about this. In fact, we used to do it. I need to reactivate this strategy. I need to implement this right now. And the third thing could be there's something that's working for this other member of the network or someone outside that I can bring into my strategy so it becomes a new way of going. One of our fundamental beliefs, guys, is running with a strategy called the other guy blinked. And that means, and I can see the guys at Bendigo there, and we've got Yeppoon there, we've got Sydney, we've got Melbourne, we've got some New Zealand members online, some Perth members. One of the things is the next best strategy for your business, for your property management business, might come from another member in a totally different area. And by actually taking that idea and putting it into your marketplace, it becomes a new, a fresh, a new perspective that you can take on board and run with. It's one of the key concepts behind the network. None of us are smart as all of us. So coming together along these lines with the mastermind is about helping us advance and improve and produce great results. So just keep that in mind as we go through. By the way, the best members in terms of getting the most value out of the masterminds are debriefing the mastermind afterwards. What were the key takeaways that you came out of? What are the ones we're going to take on board and apply? When we do that, I think great things actually happen. And one of our award-winning members in Griffith Real Estate, Matt, are you there?
Yes.
Matt, welcome, welcome, welcome. You're looking nice and warm there. So well done.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, absolutely awesome to have you here, and thanks for being on the mastermind to share some of the things that you're doing within Griffith Real Estate. In fact, you've got two brands, haven't you? You've got Griffith Real Estate and
Leighton Real Estate.
Yeah, Leighton Real Estate, which is really the two markets you guys serve. What we might start out with is just give the guys a little bit of background about your business, and in the briefing that you sent through prior to. You haven't been, overly affected by the COVID-19 and rent reliefs and all those sorts of things. It's been a little bit, but not that much. But you've actually utilised the time really wisely. So we're going to have a talk about what you've done with that. Before we get to that, though, what would be really neat to do is could you just maybe share a little bit about the business, properties under management, how many in the team, any structural things you want to chat about up front?
Yeah, sure. So Griffith Real Estate itself is the larger of the two offices, and it's the more established of the two. So there we've managed roughly around the 700 mark in terms of residential and commercial properties. Much bigger team, obviously. So we've got five property managers really, which we all look after our own portfolio. Leighton is, I suppose, a smaller scale of that. So we've got basically about 120 or so properties under management, a couple of commercial thrown in there where we have then one property manager here. And I sort of go between the two, admittedly. But yeah, Leighton, I suppose, is the business we're trying to get up and running. So in some ways, we're focusing our attention in both, but Leighton, we're sort of really wanting to drive to get rolling, basically.
Yeah, great. And in terms of commercial, about how many commercial?
Brian's probably going to have a go with this one, but I think we're about 100 or so in Griffith. In Leighton, I would probably estimate around probably just shy of 10.
Okay,
so
great. Did you have much, from a commercial point of view, were there many twists and turns on that side of it with, businesses putting brakes on and government shutdowns and so on?
Yeah, so as I said, we're pretty isolated on the residential side. We didn't have too many tenants affected, or if we did, the government payments tend to cover those. But yeah, commercial is a completely different story. And really, I didn't get too involved with that. I only did a handful over here. But I think Brian, copped a fair few calls, especially when it first took off.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah. So given that you didn't have to put that much time into the tenancy and the re-tenanting, how have you utilised the last couple of months in terms of what have you invested time in and so on?
Yeah, so we found ourselves in a bit of an interesting position where the market basically, things just slowed up, and then we found we had a bit of extra time on our hands. So basically, what do we do with that? So I know, not everyone has had that opportunity with everything going on, but yes, we're quite blessed. So we basically used the time to sort of strategize, and ironically, some of these things that we've implemented or are starting to implement, these are like things I wanted to do for years. So this has sort of given us that opportunity. And more importantly, I think it's highlighted the need that sometimes you maybe do have to step away, even if you took a week off in a year, just to literally focus on what you're going to do for yourself and create your own brand. It's very hard to be able to do both when you're managing portfolios, renting properties, and then you want to do it yourself. I mean, you can do it outside of work. I'm not a big fan of that. I like my time. So yeah, when you find that sort of situation, the market slowing down very much helped us and allowed us to take this opportunity.
Matt, can I just jump in on this one? One of the things that I think is seriously important that a lot of business leaders have learned and a lot of property managers have learned and property management leaders have learned is time working on versus time working in. So, real estate and property management is a business, guys, that will take whatever time you give it in. So if you want to give it 8 hours, it will want 10. You give it 10 hours, it'll only want 12. You give it 12 hours, it'll want 14 hours. You give it 14, it'll want 16. So it's a very hungry kind of role that you're in. So it's almost like you've got to quarantine your on time. So one of the learnings I'd love you to take on board, guys, is not just, okay, we had time to do this, which is great. We're going to hear about how you invested that time, Matt. But one of the things, guys, is to not lose sight of working on time, not just working in time. And it's got to go in first. If you think you're going to do your on time last, you're going to go like, okay, I'll do this at the end of the day. I'll do this big rock at the end of the day. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't have any time for it. So the big things can go from one day to the next to the next. So yeah, super important point around that. So how did you invest the time?
Yeah, so big thing I've focused on is social media marketing. So setting up a Facebook page, just trying to sort of push that avenue, getting content out there for people and just trying to build connections. I find as well, Facebook can be quite handy when it comes to leasing properties. If you do have one that sort of tends to be sticky, people tag their friends who they know are looking for a place. So you find people probably engage with it more so than maybe realestate.com or domain. And you can actually monitor that probably a bit better as well, just to see what doing.
So Matt, overall, you've got it's Team Green for the business, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So guys, if you want to do a search on Facebook to Team Green, probably maybe Griffith Real Estate Team Green. Yeah.
Yes, probably.
You'll find that. What did you use in terms of the Facebook page from a property management point of view?
Yeah, so putting up listings. So every time I get a new rental I put up, I just share it on there. We're putting up content, so we basically try to pick a subject or a topic or something that perhaps is important in that particular month. So we did quite a few on COVID when that first came out, just letting people know what's going on. More so, we just focus on other topics, market updates and things like that. But then we want to take it that step further and show people, things they can actually take on, like for example, a renovation, adding value to their rental property or their sale property, the right of the two. But yeah, giving something that people can use and work with to get information.
Yeah, great. Now, how does everyone find you? Because you're probably going to have a heap of people who want to follow you after this, because that sounds like an R&D strategy, like rip it off and duplicate it. Almost, Matt's put that up this week. We'll put it up next week in our marketplace. What's the Facebook page?
So I'll just back is Zerafa, Griffith and Leighton Real Estate should come up as.
Just say that again.
Oh, sorry, Matt Zerafa, Griffith and Leighton Real Estate.
And okay, just in terms of spelling, that is Z-E-R.
Yep, A-F-A.
Is that right?
Yeah. So really, it's probably I probably haven't given it as much attention as I should have.
And Matt, did you set that up as a business page?
Yeah. So I was actually trying to create a separate Facebook page altogether, and I realised that was a bit hard to do. So it's a page then connected to my personal one. That's then I think somehow connected then back to Griffith Real Estate and Leighton. But yeah, so it's, I suppose, trying to get everyone working together as well. There's no point putting up a page that doesn't really connect or draw you back to something. So that flow. Yeah,
that's great. So what frequency are you posting on there? And could you just talk a little bit about what you're putting up when you've got you mentioned a property that was a little bit difficult to to lease.
Yeah.
Could you just talk a little bit about what you're putting up? Like, what's the actual post look like? And I know the guys will probably jump on and join, but could we just
Yeah.
talk through that now?
Yeah, sure. So to be honest, I don't really overdo it in the sense I don't really type up a story or anything like that. I just literally share the property. Really, I think if people are interested, they're probably going to click on the ad anyway, and then you've got your ad text and your description and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I'll keep it to the point. I share it, and yeah, there's nothing really on top. So I don't really make it sort of any fancier than it needs to be. It's a bit more what's the word, mechanical, I suppose, just getting it out there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's great. I'm going to jump in and do a quick share, guys, on the network site. I just want to, and Matt, I'm not sure if you're across this or aware of it, but if I'm just going to go in and put in consumer campaign, there it is, okay,
Yeah.
and do a search on that. Guys, what we've created, and I'm not sure you guys are aware of it, is see all these consumer campaigns. How to build your wealth through property, is real estate a worthwhile investment, all of these. So these are all articles that are pre-done. I'll just bring one up to, Matt, are you seeing the full size there now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool. Let me see if I can just bump it up even bigger. There we go. So what this is real estate a worthwhile investment. What I'm seeing a lot of people do, guys, is rather than it being, the full article that you put on social, you might just put this first little bit on there. If you'd like to do it, click through. So you actually then have got this particular point. The other thing that I've seen people do is chunk it into, the 5 main benefits I see arising from ownership in real estate. That could be individual posts, if that makes sense. So you could do 1, 2, 3. And once again, call me if you'd like more information, or if you have an investment property to go through it. So what's neat about that, guys, is they're there for you. So, sometimes I think it's fair to say we sometimes struggle with, well, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to put on social? There's a lot there for you to be able to just go and grab off the knowledge base. So just have a look at that. Consumer campaigns. They're there for you to utilize. You can R&G it. You can grab a piece of it. You can bring 2 together. You could grab 4 and put them all together and call it a little ebook or something like that that's going to work in your market. So great, Matt. That's excellent. So what else have you done sort of timing wise from last couple of months?
Yeah, sure. And so part of the other side is sort of using this downtime as well to improve our processes that were already there, or procedures, I suppose. I think, you sort of get to a point where things are working, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can't be better. And one thing I've been very big on, which I suppose a lot of people have been doing probably more so with COVID, but I tend to play what I call musical chairs with my current tenants. At the end of the day, if I've got good tenants, I like to know that they're moving before anyone else does. At the end of the day, if there's a property, then I can shift them into, whether it's mine or a colleague's. At the end of the day, you've got a quicker turnaround. You don't necessarily have to process the application as hard. You know them, the relationship's already there. So, sort of doing these things can actually save a lot of time for you, and at the end of the day, achieve the same or a better result. So I think, efficiency is key, and knowing where you can improve on certain things.
Right. So on the processes side of it, have you got any specific ones other than that? And I love the concept of musical chairs. So it can almost be, on a weekly basis, hey, any musical chairs. It's a really cool term, by the way, just to bring into it. So do you guys use that at your meetings?
No, I've sort of carried it for years, but I probably should throw it out there a bit more.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. So, okay, let's have a look at any musical chairs we need to do, so we can actually reduce the amount of time that properties are actually vacant on the market. Improve that. By the way, that could even become a new management, or bring on board new management tools. So, by the way, once a week at our team meetings, we play musical chairs. What do you mean? It's like, hang on, that's a kid's game. No, what musical chairs is we look at how we can introduce tenants. Now, what that's had an impact of, I'm making this up, by the way, guys, what this has is an impact of, compared to other agencies out there, our vacancy rate is this compared to what the average is for the Griffith marketplace. So all of a sudden it becomes this really neat kind of competitive edge, and also you're putting explosive energy into it. helping tenants, so you'll have more wow factor out there, and at the same time helping landlords. Great.
Yeah, and along with that too, you're right, because I think one of the things we shared with guys earlier with domains reporting, so on average we tend to rent our properties 3 weeks quicker than our competitors. So again, using that point to drive home, hey, we can rent your house quicker, and this is why. You can call it, initially you go in there saying it's musical chairs, but then you've also got the data to back it up and show what I just...
Yeah. So guys, this is the report. And Matt, how are you using this report?
So we're basically just throwing out sort of, I suppose, questions or facts. For example, where lease properties 3 weeks faster, and sharing that data. Just, I suppose, there's that saying, money talks. And I think if a landlord were to come across that and think, oh, 3 weeks more in my pocket, potentially you're talking about $1,000 or more for some other places. That's going to make people think, I think.
Yeah. And are you using this report as it is, or are you taking parts of it and sharing parts of it?
Yeah, so more so sharing parts. So like this, I suppose, to keep things interesting, we thought we'd target on a specific thing. That way it's probably more easy for people to engage, so it's not over sharing in some ways or giving too much. Because people's attention spans are quite short. So yeah, we tend to hit these or pick certain points that we want to push. For example, agency ranking, that's something we might push next. And yeah, just basically anything that looks good on there, we'll push it at a different time.
Yeah. So you're grabbing pieces of this. The other thing is that I think is super important with this is whenever you're sharing a stat, is share the source of the stat, guys, at the bottom. So source from domain. So it's not something that I've made up. It's like, well, here's the source of that to be able to come through with. Excellent. Very, very good. Now, you guys are big on word of mouth, and position in the marketplace. Could we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, if you do everything, I think with word of mouth, you sort of got to take the approach of doing things backwards. So if you get your tenant processes right, your tenants have got good things to say about you. Get your landlord processes right, they've got good things to say about you. So you're sort of already doing that when you've got the business, but then they'll tell a friend, or they'll share it with their friend. And I mean, you'd like to think you build relationships with people, but I think, if I had to put it there are certain people that I know who are out there who may not necessarily, a tenant, for example, may not have a property now, but if they ever were to rent a property, I'd 99% think they would come to me just because of that relationship we've already got. So I think you've got to see everyone as a potential client and treat them as such, so that, one day they could own something and come back to you. The amount of tenants I have as well, like the good tenants who good tenants tend to have good friends who are also tenants sometimes. So they might have a friend who's interested in the property, and they'll come to you because they trust you, and therefore, you just sort of makes life easier when things are coming to you.
Yeah. And guys, one of the things I'm really liking here is, Matt, you talked about sort of almost begin with the end in mind. So what do we want the tenant experience to look like? What do we want them to be saying about us in the marketplace? What do we want the landlord to be talking about it? Because, if I say it, the market is probably going to doubt it. But if the tenants and landlords say it, it would be great. A fantastic exercise for you guys to do based on this would be for you to actually go through and say, all right, and look, I've written the term down, Matt, and you didn't say it, but this is what came into my head is outcome-based wow. So what's our outcome-based wow? So in other words, what's the tenant wow? What do we want them to say in the marketplace about us? What's the landlord wow? What do we want them to say about us in the marketplace? So, and then I love the fact that, so, okay, let's reverse engineer. What can we put in place and what can we do? Now, I know a lot of you are doing a great job at this, but I think if you actually do just shine the torch on this, and once again, this is an on the business activity, not an in the business activity. As a team, if you guys were to brainstorm, say, okay, this, and by the way, it might be, guys, this month is tenant wow, because out of the two of them, we've done a really good job looking after our landlords in this process. Coming out of this whole health and safety and economic situation, how do we actually take our tenant wow to another level? I don't think that we've seen all of the impacts from an economic point of view yet, from a tenant point of view, and therefore from a landlord point of view. So being ahead of the game and improving on that, I think is absolutely brilliant. So brainstorm, what's our outcome-based wow we can have for a tenant, outcome-based wow from a landlord point of view with that. Excellent. Matt, anything more on that? Because I want to sort of change the topic to some time management stuff, how you organise yourself from a time point of view. But anything more on that from a wow word of mouth side of things?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty well covers it. I think, yeah, if you can do all that right, you'll find that you'll end up in a situation where the business is more so coming to you than you having to look for it. So I think you hit the nail on the head there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So time management, can we talk a little bit about, what's your time management strategies? How do you organise you, other members of the team, that kind of thing, team meetings, that side of things?
So for myself, probably time management is probably one of my weaker points. Ironically, yeah. But from the team perspective, I think we're quite well organised team. We do try to catch up at minimum once a week for a meeting. I mean, the thing with property management is, just the other morning, I got out of bed, first call was a burst pipe. So if you had a meeting that day, probably not going to happen with, there's always something that can come up. And the bigger your portfolio is, the more the chance of something coming up. So we try to meet religiously, but you do have the occasional exception, and then we make up for it the following day. But I think, catching up is very important. It gives you a bit of structure and focus, and probably more so for anyone who's a bit younger or hasn't been in the game as long, gives them a bit of direction.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And if I was new coming into property management, what would be your 3 biggest pieces of advice? So I'm coming in new, your 3 big pieces of advice?
It's a good question, actually. I suppose confidence is probably the thing. You got to think, for anyone to trust what you're saying, you got to be confident in what you're saying. One thing I probably wish I told myself earlier on is, I had a bit of an epiphany once at a market appraisal where the landlord, I was going through the charges, didn't question one of them. She took it like a champ. So no discounting, nothing. And by the end of it, I thought, I'm going to charge this lady full price for something that she made really easy on me, and chances are she's going to be a great landlord to work with. So I sort of flipped things around from there. I basically, if someone doesn't question my fees, I'll tend to give them a discount. They're probably a landlord who's a bit easier to work with. Anyone who's a pain in the ass, I'll stick to my guns at that fee. Because at the end of the day, if they sign up with me, I'm probably going to earn that money with them. They're probably going to be a bit hard to work with. And sometimes you don't always get those ones. And to be honest, that's fine. I used to have this attitude of you have to win everything. You don't. You've got to win. You win most of them. And if they can't work with them, sometimes it's better to walk away.
Matt, it's really interesting you say that. I have a philosophy, and by the way, if you think that we adjust our fees based on how nice you are, that's not where I'm heading with this. But I love that strategy. What we do is we have a philosophy, and I've had a coaching philosophy, that I only want to work with clients who want to work with me. So therefore, it's a really easy process, because we get together, we've got great energy, we can move things forward. You can have open, honest conversations and literally make something happen. What's interesting with this is the confidence piece that you bring into play. And I love the fact that this could be a bit of a problem landlord. Let's actually just up a notch or two. So, I mean, you've said it's not discount, but you could actually go the other way and say, actually, kick it up a notch or two. Or you could even say, hey, depending on how we get on today, I would be very, very happy to honour you our VIP. So you wouldn't call it a discount. You call it our VIP. So it becomes like, oh, this is our VIP rate. Why? With the people that we actually really love working with. So, and by the way, guys, even if you wanted to say, well, we don't really want a discount, just add another % to the standard, right? And then your VIP becomes what your current now is. So it's a really simple way of creating margin and perspective. And by the way, everyone loves a deal. So if you turn around and say, hey, I can do the VIP, what's interesting is a lot of the time we do a 1% reduction. I think you're better off to do a 10% reduction on fees. By the way, if it's 10%, it's mathematically really easy. And if it's an 8% fee, right, and you do a 10% reduction, it's actually 0.8% you're reducing. It's actually not the full percent. Now, on one transaction, it's not going to make a difference, but over a portfolio, the VIP rate, I'm happy to actually honour the VIP rate, which, by the way, is 10% reduction on this. So all of a sudden, they're getting something of value. They feel like they've had a win in the process, and they've moved it forward. Great. So number one, confidence. By the way, the biggest driver of confidence is knowledge, right? knowledge of the marketplace, knowledge of the processes, knowledge of how to actually deal with a hearing or a dispute, that kind of thing. So the more we can beef that up, the more confidence we actually have. So confidence, first one. Anything else you give as advice for someone new coming in?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing, don't take things to heart. I used to probably take on too much in some way or internalize a lot of stuff, and that didn't help at all. You sort of got to be a bit Teflon coated in some ways and just let things bounce off. It doesn't mean you don't have to care, but it just doesn't mean don't absorb it, because that'll sort of mess up your own head, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. In negotiation, I talk about care, but not that much. And you know, some people get a little bit sort of attached to it. No, Michael, I'm supposed to care. Absolutely, but care, but not that much. You know, we're not in a life-threatening situation here in terms of real estate. So I like the Teflon coating, Matt. The other one that Fiona Blaney introduced to us is the bubble. So I remember this cartoon that used to have the bleep, the bubble. And so you could still talk through it, but the emotion wouldn't actually come to you. We couldn't actually get attacked by it. And the other one that I know some of you heard me talk about is the sea breeze. See it going past you as opposed to it landing here with that. So great. Confidence. It's not personal, and so don't take it personally. And is there a third one?
And probably the thing, I think being nice to people is probably the last one. I've always said it's hard to punch a nice person in the face. So no matter how you're talking to someone, if you're being polite, being nice, you'll find it de-escalates. You got a choice here to take it up a notch and attack and escalate it, or you try to bring it down. And I think of the two, don't get me wrong, sometimes you might want to escalate it, but you'll feel better for yourself trying to take it down.
So the I'm a lover, not a fighter kind of piece in there. What I really like about this in terms of being nice, I think everyone has across their forehead, make me feel important and care about me. So, no one's going to come in to you and say, hello, can you make me feel unimportant and insignificant? So the more that we can make someone feel important, being nice to them, being great with them, and helping them on their property journey, whether it be buying a property, selling a property, leasing the property, renting the property out, or a new tenancy, whatever it might be, is to be able to support them on that particular journey. Because right now you've got some investors who are probably going to have chats with you guys as property managers and say, is now the right time for me to increase my portfolio? Others will be in the mode of saying, geez, I'm stretched a little bit. I might need to sell a property. So they're looking for your advice and recommendation on that. My favorite question, by the way, guys, that allows you to get clear on that is, could you just tell me a little bit more about your overall property goals? I love that question, because if you go, what are your overall property goals? I'd like to increase my portfolio, reduce my portfolio. I'd like to get rid of that one and replace it with something there. I know I need to do a reno on this one, and so on. And something we talked about, interesting enough, in the sales session. So I'm going to share this with you. There are 4 words, guys, I'd like you to take on board. And Matt, you're sort of triggering these in me. So thank you for this. The first one is using the word solutions. So I've got a couple of solutions I'd like to run through with you on this. That's the first word. The second word is options. Let me actually talk through some options that I see are available to you at the moment. The next one is, I'd love to share with you some recommendations that have worked for some of our other clients who are in this situation. And the final one is, could I share some advice with you that's actually making a difference to a lot of my clients? So just utilize those words in there and guarantee you'll be elevating your dialogue and elevating your position. Excellent. Matt, anything else you'd like to tip in or cover off on and so on?
Yeah, probably the only thing I'll probably mention is, I think one thing we talk about, I think in real estate a lot is, or property management, is communication. I think communication is very important, but to a point. Like, for example, I think there's no point, I don't think there's much point communicating to someone unless you've got a solution. So you could say, hey, your tenant's bolted the house, I'm just here to let you know. That's great. Chances are they're probably going to get a bit more upset after that phone call. But if you call someone and say, look, tenants have done the runner or vacated the property, but we've got this in place, or we're looking to do this and that, you'll find you have a much better go of it. So I think, yeah, always call with a solution rather than just for the sake of communicating.
Yeah. So I'm loving the plan B. So, plan B, here's what we're doing, here's where we're heading, here's what we're actually going to put in place. By the way, guys, I've got a heater on here, and it was the wrong thing to do. I don't know if I'm looking like I'm overheating. I am actually overheating, which is crazy. I'm feeling like I'm having a hot flush right now in the heating department. Hey Matt, this has been absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, I know that a lot of you have got a really, really busy day. What I think is the most important thing coming out of this is, once again, as a team, debriefing and saying, okay, what came out of this, and what are the key things we can put in place? So that outcome-based wow, I'm loving it. Let's have a look at what we can do from a social point of view that may not even get near realestate.com or domain to present properties to market. Building profile and building that authority position in the marketplace, I think is super, super critical. I think it's important that we actually help our clients be informed but not overwhelmed on their property journey, bringing into place around how we can actually lift that service level before we need to, and maybe theming a month around a particular point to build some great momentum. And then those three final points: confidence, it's not personal, and be nice with that. I think is great, and I love the fact that you integrate that into a commission conversation, or not a commission conversation, a commission offer to clients, which is brilliant. Matt, it's been awesome having you on this mastermind. Can we give Matt a round of applause? Excellent. And guys, we're not going to go to the breakouts today, but what I would like to do is, could you just share in the chat what were your key takeaways from this, which could be a confirmation of what you're doing, or it might be a refocus. The other one that I should have mentioned before is that Matt, you're investing on time to actually improve the way you do things, not to spend time in it. So this is like, I'm going to the coal mine, I'm going to the coal mine, I'm going to the coal mine. Well, is there a better way of doing it? You're actually in that particular headspace. So that's something you want to keep going, not lose, because it's like, oh, okay, we're back to normal. I think the new normal is making sure we're continually advancing, improving, and developing. So guys, just pop in there. What were your key takeaways from there? I've got my glasses on, Matt, so I can actually see this. Care, but not that much. Thanks, Shelley. So the Teflon. Moss not internalize, need a Teflon coating. Okay. I like the reiteration of going to your landlords with a solution as opposed to telling them of the challenge. Natalie, be nice. Great. Thanks, Belinda. Thanks, Kathy. Other key points, guys? Have a solution when speaking to an owner. Great, Nicoletta. Great. And by the way, guys, don't assume someone else is going to do that particular update it. You be active in this. We're all in this thing together. Not all business is good business. Great. Thanks, Lisa. And two more. I'm waiting with anticipation. Remember, okay, we got a thanks, Matt, which is great. One more. Guys, make sure you're chiming into the chat. Bidding. Oh, you're holding out on me. I can't believe it, Matt. Can you believe it? Oh, there you go. Lisa's come through. Give the solution, not just the problem. Well done. Thank you, Lisa. Hey, Matt, it's been awesome having you on today. Thank you so much. And I can just imagine your clients loving you. Your energy is great. Your tonality of your voice. I can imagine nothing is too much of an issue with you, and you're just in that mode of saying, "Hey, let's get in and make it happen." So a real proactive kind of person approach, and a real asset to not only just the network, but to the team at Griffith Real Estate. So thank you. A round of applause for Matt.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. So I'm going to pause the recording.